Everybody wave.
Hey, cheese.
Alright, okay. Forgot some lights. Get everything back here. Karen, would you come and get that plugged in for me while I plug the other? It's kind of behind there.
Yeah, I got it.
Oh,
Hey.
okay. Oh, good. Okay. All right, good morning. We are glad to be here, gathered together. And this is our first meeting as it relates to the property over on Robert E. Lee and Madrid, and Brother Danny Tan and his daughter have come to bring us a proposal and presentation. And so, that being said, we'll have a word of prayer, and then we will have it as your led. Heavenly Father, we're thankful that Thou art with us. And because we know that Thou art with us, we know that whatever we need, You will provide. It's wisdom, whether it's knowledge, whether it's understanding, whether it's whatever it is that we need, we're dependent and leaning upon You to provide. We ask Your blessings upon the beginnings of this process, that it will bring about that which You have designed in Your heart. So in Jesus' name we pray, amen and amen. Hallelujah. All right, Dan, it's on you.
All right. Thank you. I appreciate the opportunity to be here and formally present some ideas and proposals to you guys for the development of this property, or redevelopment, or repurposing this property for your ventures and your visions going forward. A little bit of history on this. I think Pastor Nick, you and I came to know one another probably about 8 or 10 years ago when we had a community event here through County Udo, and we had a bunch of folks come in here, and I had equipment available, and you know, I donated my time in that, and it was just a remarkable meeting, you and I, because we just hit it off immediately together, and you know, we've been friends ever since, and I've been more than happy to assist you guys and keeping the place together, and you know, helping in whichever way I can. You know, and over the years I've done that gladly, and glad I had the opportunity to do so. But more recently, probably the beginning of this year, 2019, and by the way, today's date is September the 7th, 2019. But earlier this year, I started to see some things here and start to wonder, you know, as New Orleans is rebounding from the 14 years of tragedy that we had after Katrina, that not too much was moving forward. You know, we had some high points here, where folks came in and gave us a hand temporarily to build some fences and do some things on the property, but it still wasn't moving at the pace that we had hoped it would move in, and the big donation we thought was coming unfortunately didn't materialize. But you never know, everything happens for a reason, and you know, He's got His plan, so hopefully we can make this thing work at this point. But I've looked at this from several different ways, and I know you guys need funding, and unfortunately there was no insurance, and you know, we're at the state we're in, which is the best we can do with what you had. But I started a dialogue with Pastor Nick early this year, and I started asking him, you know, what do you want your legacy to be? And you know, what are your visions for this center, and what are your visions for the community around this center? And we began talking a little bit more, and you know, I told him, I said, Pastor Nick, you know, neither one of us going to be around here too much longer. You know, all things considered, hopefully we will. But you know, if we're going to get this thing kicked off and have you realize your dreams and the community's dreams, and have all these people benefit from it, then it's time to relook at how to get that done. And since I've been here with you guys, you know, y'all have had that ball field across the way there, which is the property we're talking about right now, and it never really materialized. You know, at one point it was going to be a soccer field or a baseball field, and but it never really went that way. It seems that the focus fell back on the gym first, and then this little field on the north side of the gym that have some activity from time to time. And so I guess, I don't know that I planted the seed or anything like that, but I think I gave y'all some insight into what the possibilities are to use what you currently have to change and go forward with where you want to go. And so in April, I proposed a letter that I'd like to read into the record, if you don't mind, because it pretty much says everything that I wanted to say today anyway. And again, nothing set in stone. We're just here for an initial meeting and conversation on what possibly, could be done. So I wrote this on April 29th of this year, addressed to Pastor Don, Nicholas, and Al, the rest of you guys included. But I said, Dear Pastor Nick, several weeks ago we began a conversation regarding the issues concerning your church ministry and the obstacles it faced bringing your hopes and dreams to fruition. We discussed the legacy you wish to leave to the community and your desires to fulfill your goals. In listening to your thoughts and previously witnessing over the years your steadfast commitment to this objective, I began to analyze the situation and assess possible solutions that could lead to the successful implementation of a plan that could launch your ministry's mission to benefit the community you wish to serve. As you know, I've been a staunch supporter of you and Hope United for many years now. I have donated labor, materials, resources to the organization to help it along whenever the need arose, and I'm proud to have been a part of that effort to revitalize your ministry. Now, as we continue to move forward, I would like to again assist you in a strategic plan to convert some of your unused assets into the funding needed for your projects In particular, the parcel of land you own that was formerly going to be a soccer field that never materialized. Around 2010 or so, while FEMA was rebuilding major infrastructure projects in the city, I became aware of a huge quantity of fill material that was being discarded in landfills because the contractors had nowhere to put it. Through my connection to the industry, I was able to divert approximately 160 truckloads of fill to that parcel and subsequently another 60 loads to the north side of the gym. Pursuant to those deliveries, I purchased a bulldozer and began to spread the material on those parcels, adding to the value to the land as it is now substantially elevated and drains well. And over the years, I made sure that you had the equipment to keep the grass cut and looking good for the community. During our recent conversations, I shared with you the opportunity and decision I made to retire. I sold my business and I am liquidating most of my equipment. My intentions now are to return to the real estate development, which I successfully operated prior to Hurricane Katrina. This time, I'm taking my daughter Lauren along as a partner. Lauren is very knowledgeable and is a licensed real estate agent. She has already begun collecting data on land values relative to the soccer field parcel, and we spent a considerable amount of time planning and discussing the options for this potential venture. Thinking through everything we discussed thus far, I wanted to stress to you that my involvement in this plan will be limited to strategic planning and consulting. I will also make additional resources available as needed to help the project along at no upfront cost to you. This plan being developed is based on a win-win strategy for you, your ministry, the community, and myself, as I am able to guide you to your goals. Below is a short list of ideas we discussed and I advanced into the preliminary plan. 1. Hope United Church and DK Ventures, my little company, will enter into an operating agreement intended to facilitate the liquidation of the soccer field parcel of land through the re-subdivision and marketing of that parcel. Number 2, Hope United Church will maintain ownership of the land for the sale and disposition of re-subdivided lots. 3, DK Ventures will be responsible for the cost and planning of the re-subdivision, with the ultimate decision being made by Hope United. 4, DK Ventures will be responsible for marketing of the new lots through the MLS Realtor Services or private sale, whichever is more feasible at the time. Sales commissions to Lauren Catan will be usual and customary for this type of transaction. 5, Hope United will have a final approval based on its charter as to who qualifies for purchasing the lots. However, Hope United retains the right to amend its charter if deemed necessary for the sale of the lots. DK Ventures will be compensated for its efforts and investment in bringing this project forward. However, payments will be deferred until the actual sale of the lots begin. All hard costs, re-subdivision fees, legal fees, etc., incurred from the inception of this agreement will be paid upon the first sale of the lots. DK Ventures will be allowed to assess a one-time participation charge in each lot to partially compensate for past, present, and future involvement in the development of Hope United's real assets. The payment will also be deferred to the sale of each lot and will be approved by a first mortgage on each parcel due at the active sale. Cost of mortgage recordation will be included in the transaction. Participation fee on each lot will be 12% of the sale price. Please review this preliminary proposal and let me know how your thoughts, questions, and concerns. Nothing here is set in stone, and I look forward to a stimulating dialogue as we begin to bring Hope United Ministry forward as a destination in the community it serves. Thank you and God bless. So that's what I got so far, and I'm going to give you a little brief overview of the way we laid this thing out. Do you have any questions so far?
No, I'm good.
Okay.
I like the proposal.
Okay.
Yeah.
Wait till you hear the numbers.
Okay, so this is kind of what we're looking at. I got an aerial view off of Google, and that's a big green parcel, as you all well know what it is. And this is what I'm looking at doing it with the parcel. We can subdivide this into 10 residential lots, and all of them meeting the criteria of the city of New Orleans. And I know they would just love to see this parcel of land redeveloped into the single-family homes for low density and the first-time providers and first responders and folks of that nature, you know, school teachers, whatever, and market it to them. And I think that's what Pastor Nick, you know, had brought to me, and I thought that was just a great idea and a great place to start. And so this is basically how I thought the lots could be laid out. And this one on the bottom right
It's
here.
two options basically of what
Is-
we could look at, and really it's
Yeah.
what the city would approve.
Yeah, and so that's basically a little sketch of how we would subdivide the lots. It would be, I think, 3 of them on Peoples Avenue, five of them, or maybe 2 on Peoples, 5 on Robert E. Lee, and 3 on Bassett Street.
Broad spectrum, the goal would be to have 9 to 10 lots, however they can be placed legally that the city would approve for people to be able to buy. More than likely a developer will buy it and put a bunch of first-time home buyer houses on it, because that's typically, first-time home buyer's not gonna be able to buy a $50,000 lot and then build on top of it. There's a ton of developers in this area who are buying up parcels of land, sticking these single-family homes on it, and people are able to purchase them. So that's what I envision seeing, what's gonna happen. But anyway, so what I was getting at is we're looking at the 10 lots, however the city approves it in regards to shape and how it fits.
Right. I don't see this being any type of a problem for the city of New Orleans getting approval to re-subdivide them. And, you know, if we get something together today, I'm gonna go to City Hall, first part of this week, and I'll meet with the planning director at City Hall and run this by him preliminary and say, what do you think about it? And I'm sure he's gonna give me
Make sure
a
it's an
blessing
option.
and say, yeah, that looks like a good idea, you know, we'll kick a few things around, you know, basically about infrastructure, drainage, power, you know, those kind of things. And I think we can come up with a more definitive plan after that conversation. I've also got a price already to not re-subdivide, but to do the boundary surveys on the lots, to lay it out for 10 by a land surveyor, R.J. Krebs, who I've used for 10 years. And they'll go in there and they will actually put stakes on each lot, you know, to show where they're gonna be laid out. They're gonna do the preliminary proposal to the city of New Orleans to, you know, get the okay formally from them to go forward with it. And then, you know, we can file for the re-subdivision to be formally done. I also have a legal team that's already looked at this back in April on a very preliminary basis. And I just closed a piece of property yesterday. I sold, Lauren sold for me, and I was able to talk to her again. And I said, guess where Lauren and I going tomorrow? She said, where? I said, remember that one thing I told you about, the 10 lots out there in East New Orleans? She says, yeah. I said, we're going to meet formally with her. She says, great. So she's ready and able to draw up whatever operating agreement that we come to. And, you know, we'll present that to you guys, and then you guys, you know, if everything looks okay to you, you know, we'll go ahead and sign off on it, and we're off to the races. So I'm gonna provide all the funding to get the surveys done, to get the operating agreement done, the legal part of it done, to get it re-subdivided, you know, and I'll do that all up front. And then, as I said in my letter, you know, that none of that will be charged to you guys. And when the first lot sells, then I'll start recouping some of the hard costs that I had in it, so that you guys will never have any money up front. You know, so it's a no money down deal for me. But, you know, I mean, in the overall scheme of things, you know, considering what we're looking at over there, it's pretty substantial. You know, Laura and I ran some numbers a couple of different times, and she's got some very latest proposals from yesterday or today. And I think you guys can really make an impact on the neighborhood. I just see this as a great win for you guys, a great win for the neighborhood, you know, a win for me because I'm going to be able to finally see Pastor Nick come drive above, you know, and stop struggling and being able to do it, you know, we still got time to do it. You know? And so, you know, hopefully 5 years down the line, y'all have this thing rocking and rolling in whatever fashion you want it to go in, and, you know, and bring it to you. So, with that all said,
I can take over.
yeah, she'll take over. Just one more little thing. Pastor Nick had mentioned to me that there may be a title dispute on the Robert and Lee side, because I believe it was 2 lanes way back in time, and then the city either donated 1 lane or something changed. So part of what we're going to do is do the title research on this whole parcel, which we have to do anyway. But the other part of what we're going to have to do is do some title research on where the school buses are. You know, and figure out that parcel of land, what's in the city's records.
Yeah.
The
Now, the
government,
name of this, so you have that name is Britannia School.
Britannia School.
That's the one that went to the city and got that permission to utilize that area for buses and, you know, to utilize for school.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, we'll use that, you know, I'll let the attorneys know on that. It'll show up in the
No,
title
okay.
research.
No.
It'll show up. So, we gotta make sure that all that's gonna be clear
Sure.
before we go forward. And that's gonna give y'all some comfort also in knowing that what you have here is yours locked down.
Right.
You know, nobody can come back on a piece of it later on. So, all right, be that as it may, I'm gonna let Lauren do the financial aspects of it and give you guys a good idea of what you're really looking at here. All right? Take over,
Thanks so much, Danny.
Thank you.
All right, I'll bring a little water.
So, start by saying that everything is negotiable. We can change any of this where you're comfortable. But based on the facts that I have, whenever a bank or anybody buying these properties run an appraisal, they have to use the exact comps that we use as real estate agents. So all of these are going to show 180 days back, so in the past 6 months to a year. So I ran this one 3 months ago, and just to give you an idea of comps, so comparables of what you could price these lots at. Your main comps here are going to be Madrid Street. It was 2723 Madrid. You have 6110 Bassage, and then you had one on Peoples. So what I'm getting at is the one on Madrid and Bassage sold for $55,000 and $59,000. The one on Peoples, and then you have one other one that brings the price down a little bit, and that is one on LaFay Street, was 24 and 23. Bottom line is, in the past year, you've had up to 14 different vacant lots that are considered comparables to any of the ones over there that would be subdivided. You can justify selling each of those at 55, probably minimum. So, what does that equal out to? So, we did 55 lots by 55,000 by 10 lots. You're looking at 550 grand. After real estate fees, and I'm willing to negotiate, a typical real estate fee is 3% of that sales price. I don't mind doing 2.5%. I want to, help you out.
Thank you.
It would be less than that. So I mean, let's say hypothetically it was that 3%. After selling all 10 of those lots at exactly 55,000, after my real estate costs, not including his or whatever, we need to do for.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
Sure.
That's still 533,000. So that is a lot of money that you can put back into this church and get your vision of having it the way you want. So there's enough hard proof of what your lots are worth. Now, what I see happening is a developer will probably buy a bunch at a time. So what I would suggest, like in the event that happens, if somebody comes forward and they're like, okay, well, we want to buy the 3 or 4 on Peoples or however it's set up, you could give them a better deal. Maybe take 3,000 to 5,000 off of each lot. Either way, it's going to be quite a return for you. So, and all of this I have copies of, so you can keep. And it just talks about each of the comparables, and then the main page you want to look at is the last 2 pages. And I have highlighted the sold prices. So you're going to have list prices where they hope they're going to get, and then you have sold prices, and that's where the realistic. It also shows the days on the market. So the average amount of days on the market is gonna be about 30 days, in this area, which is actually pretty good, so you guys can keep those.
Okay. Now, Lauren, one thing, I want to bring up to you that Pastor Nick and I talked about, was that, the church charter, is directing that they not be sold to a developer.
Oh,
It would have to
okay.
be a nonprofit or first-time homeowner, something like that. Now, Pastor Nick and I had a conversation a couple of weeks ago that you were going to have some discussion with your board about that charter and that stipulation.
Yeah.
And so we gotta kind of work through this, part of the agreement, Do y'all wanna release that to just go on sale and we just market each lot individually? Or do you want to, keep it as it is and have control over it? My proposal in my letter said that you would keep ownership of the lot and control of the lot until it goes to the eventual buyer, which you would approve. And,
Whether that be individual or package
or packet,
Yeah,
either
and
way.
when I'm saying sold to a developer, it doesn't necessarily have to be a developer, but I think that's gonna be it's gonna be the most attractive to that kind of buyer.
Because a developer will come in here, they got several of them working in these neighborhoods.
Yeah, there's 3 major ones in this.
It gives them a real opportunity of development to cut a lot of costs involved. When you bring the power driver in, the framers in, and all those guys, then they're gonna do 1, 2, 3 at a time, right next to each other.
Right.
There's a great cost efficiency in doing that. But, there's all kind of ways you can do it, but you've got such an attractive package over there to just, let's go ahead and flip it, put the money in the church, and you guys carry this thing forward and do what you want.
Well, in reference to, what you were, making that distinction about, is that we've done an amendment to the charter.
Okay?
And we've already taken a voice vote.
Okay.
And so we pretty much have voice approval, the majority approves, and so what we've done is the part that, there's a part of the charter where it says disillusionment of property. Then it says who are those that it can be given to or sold to. And it names nonprofits, church organizations, and federal public use type thing. Those are the 3 key areas. So what we decided to do is leave that intact, because that has to do with disillusionment of property. If we were deciding, so okay, we're not going to have ministry. Okay, so the amendment addresses that issue, which is already in the charter, that says at any time, a given majority of those in the congregation may decide to sell some portion of the property. Now, this new amendment, what I did was to clarify that more and be more specific, that it can be used, the properties can be used for the purpose of the renovation of existing facilities. So that takes out the whole issue of nonprofit and so on.
Okay.
Meaning anyone could buy it at this point,
Right.
since the agenda is.
Yeah, that's what the amendment is going to say, because we're tying it into so that we remain with the same mindset that it's going to somehow fulfill a purpose that God has set in this whole ministry. And so one of the things we have called a tenfold ministry, and all of that includes making all of this available to do economic ministry, political, so on. There are about 10 different aspects in which it addresses social, spiritual, I don't want to say other words, public use like hospital health, adult daycares and so on. So that way we're still within the context of, even if it was going to be dissolved, this amendment would address all of that. And so because we're using the funding selling this property for these purposes, then those initial three do not really apply.
That's a good idea, Pat. I really gotta tell you, that's a good
Yeah.
idea.
Yeah.
So what you're doing
Yeah.
basically
Yeah.
is, rather than saying we're gonna sell them to people that we hope are going to do what we want them to do with
Right.
the property, it
Mhm.
actually dedicates the proceeds
Right.
back to the
Exactly.
ministry for the development
Right.
of the community,
Right.
and that gives you control of what actually happens after it passes time.
Right.
Great
Exactly.
idea.
Exactly.
I like that.
Exactly. So that's where we are on that.
Okay. Is there a formal charter, I guess there is, you know, that, 'cause I'm sure it's gonna come up, you know, in the operating agreement, that, you know, the legal folks that we have, are gonna wanna look at, see what the church charter actually says,
Sure.
you know, and get a copy of that. And then I guess your amendment would need to be included in there before we go forward with that.
Right.
So if that's all stuff that, you know, if we're all in agreement with all this now, then you can proceed to do that.
Mhm.
And then, when I get that back from you, you know, we'll get working on the operating agreement, actually put it in paper.
Okay, yeah. One, the treasurer president, she's not here right now. But she's in the process with a lawyer, you see, because we're doing a whole new charter.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Because we're changing the name of the ministry, yeah.
What's it gonna be?
Hope United Christian Fellowship, we're maintaining the historic right.
Yeah.
Hope
Yeah.
United
Uh-huh.
Christian Fellowship.
Excellent.
We're moving the denominational aspect of it.
Got it.
Excellent.
So, that's in the process. Last time I talked with it, I've got to talk with her. I don't want to say where it is right now, but
Yeah.
I'm gonna be talking with her as soon as I get clarity on moving. Now, what we had, this lawyer is a friend of hers, and he was doing it to do for the church, because of her friendship
Okay.
person. But it may be that we would have to get, in order to facilitate this moving forward in a timely manner, we may have to get another lawyer and have them do it, so it can be done in speed.
Okay.
Right.
So, you know, that, I'm gonna talk with her and see where we are. If it doesn't appear like there's any movement on that, then I'm gonna come back.
Okay. Yeah. If you need any funding for those fees in that regard, let me know.
Oh,
You know, I know you guys are still struggling a little bit, but we're gonna turn that corner.
I definitely need to run, guys.
Keep it running.
Mr. Danny,
all right.
everything you do, you just said I agree with, because
It's
the
nice to
land
meet
is
you.
out there, it's big, and I know people
Yeah.
have use for it. This neighborhood, this community definitely uses it. So everything you said was something that me and him has actually talked about for years. Doing some of those lifestyles, because I know that things can be done.
It's a good time to do it.
Definitely.
It's a good time.
Nice to meet you. Ron.
So nice to meet you.
All
All
right, brother? All
Everything
right.
sounds great.
All right, brother, God bless you.
Change is needed. Change is good.
Yes.
Thank you, sister.
All right, man. Enjoy your weekend.
Thank you.
I know we just threw quite a bit at you. How do you feel about everything? I know that you have to go and discuss with obviously all the partners and so on. Do you have any concerns?
No, I don't. Because, and I'll tell you why I don't have any concern. Is that, you know, I believe that God moves in times and seasons through specific people to accomplish what he wants to accomplish. Not only what's before us, but accomplish what he wants to accomplish through all of those that become a part of the process. And so, I trust in him, his leadership. He hasn't failed me yet.
I was gonna say, doesn't sound like he's failed you just yet.
No, but you know, I appreciate that, but at this point, anything, you know, in any process, it's gonna be questions, clarity, what have you, but I will go over the material, and I'm gonna list questions, you can as a trustee will go, we talk about it, and, if some concern or questions, and we'll, we'll get back to you.
Yeah, and the other big plus for you too is, you're gonna take basically a piece of raw land, re-subdivide, and put it out for retail. But your nonprofit is not gonna have any capital gains on that. So that's even another
That's fantastic.
that's gonna be a huge bonus for you. So that you're bringing that money and directing it back into the nonprofit,
Yeah, right.
which
right,
is even
right,
stronger
Right.
to reinforce what you wanna do with the change in the
And
charge.
that's what that amendment says, it goes into Visions for Humanity, which is our nonprofit.
Okay.
It puts us under Hope United, but it's Visions for Humanity. So that, well, Brother Baldwin was there, our treasurer, he said, he's the finance man. And he knows all about that stuff, his food market. Great.
All right,
Well, it sounds, man, I tell you, huh?
all right.
Hey,
That's
God,
good.
God's done great and mighty things.
Yes, sir.
Well, we thank both of you for coming.
Yeah,
Yeah.
definitely. Thank you for having
And,
us.
Yeah.
Feel free to, once you've talked to everybody, if you make a list of questions, we'll be more than happy to come back and talk about it with you.
Okay, great. Okay.
I got some new cars made, Pastor, now that I'm out the demolition business, so.
All right.
It's got all my information on it, if you wanna give them to the
You're
board.
done with tearing down, you're in the business of building up.
He'll never
Yeah.
get done.
Actually, I gotta
Well,
tell
to
you,
a degree, huh?
I'm in demolition.
He can't let
still,
go. He can't let
But I
go.
just don't do it. I give it to these other guys and they do it, and they give me a little percentage back on it.
Oh, okay.
In fact, when I leave here, I'm going to River Ridge, look at another house to tear down. I'm keeping these guys so busy, they bought another machine.
He just can't let go.
Whoa,
I
that's
just don't wanna do it anymore. you
Yeah.
know?
Hey.
Time to change seasons.
Yeah. And I know you feel so much like a weight has been lifted.
Yeah, definitely. I'm definitely in a better place.
Yeah.
I just couldn't do it again, man. See how hot it is out there? I don't wanna be on a machine anymore.
It is
You know,
supposed to
and
be
every now
hot.
and then you
Yeah.
break a hose or something you need to repair, and then you pull the wrenches in that heat. No, I'm done with that.
It's a new day.
Yeah, buddy. All right. Well, it's been
All
a
right,
pleasure.
then.
As always, same here.
All right.
You.
Okay.
So nice to meet you. Thank you for meeting with us today.
Yeah, so looking forward to getting this thing rolling.
All right, okay then.
All right,
Well,
that's it.
I'm gonna talk with you next week.
Sure.
As soon as I get some response
see you
on
again.
it.
All right.
So good to see you again. All right, look forward to working with you.
Yeah, me too.
All
I'm
right.
excited.
And, look forward to see some of your work.
All right, I might bring some by.
All right then. All right, God bless.
Bye,
All
guys.
right, thank y'all.
All right. All right. So, what do you think? Just some of your thoughts.
I think that's a good idea,
Mhm.
what we're talking about. It'd be wonderful if it could happen.
Yes. Well, God is able to make it happen. Amen. Huh?
You will.
Yeah, amen. Okay, so, of course, now this would be our, I want to go over the charter with you, so that, and some of the stuff has already been discussed,
Yeah.
so we won't spend any time with it. And there's just I'll just go over each one and just give you some information. You can make notes if you like, or whatever. And, but in our next meeting, then it'll be just us, meeting,
Yeah.
and we'll be discussing the issues concerning the church. Now, as I shared with you, I think when I said, did you ever were able to get
No,
the-
I got a new phone. I
Oh.
left it at home.
Oh, okay,
I
so,
forgot.
all right. So it's not a new number though, huh?
No, it's the same one.
Oh, okay, so I'll resend,
Okay.
okay, information
Yeah,
I sent
yeah,
before,
Yeah.
and then you have it.
Yeah, I
in
called
your-
Jed over and she put stuff in my phone for me.
Oh,
she
okay.
did it right
That's
there.
it, yes,
You
yes.
know she not.
Yes. How's she
She's
doing?
finna graduate. I told her she wants you to come.
When?
I told her she
She
got
want me to
find out
come?
today. Yeah, she wants you
She's
to come.
forgiven me, huh?
Yeah.
Rest
She
up.
said, she
I had to-
always asks me how you doing. I said,
Yeah.
you need to come see.
Yeah,
Come
yeah,
see.
yeah, that's right, yeah. You know, I had this tough love.
Yeah, I know, yeah.
Uh,
Yeah, I ain't cut no grass.
Yeah.
That's for a boy.
okay.
Pastor said I gotta
that, what I was, because you're always trying to teach
Yeah.
young people things. They may
Yeah.
not understand what you're trying to share
I
with
told
them.
you, trying to
Yeah.
learn you how to cut the grass.
And when you go on a job,
Yeah.
you're gonna be asked to
A lot of stuff.
do whatever they ask you
Look
to
at the
do.
fast food restaurant. They mopping the floor. They cleaning off the table. They cooking.
Exactly.
They doing so much.
Exactly.
So much.
And so, and little Jawan, he went, I'll do this, and
Yeah,
so I had to, issue that tough love, but I love her, she's
yeah, that's why I
great
told
young
you
lady.
that.
Please, keep it encouraged, tell the pastor say, come.
I'm telling you.
Yeah.
I
yeah,
told
they
their
wanna see you.
daddy, he need to get some lawnmowers and vets his
Oh,
money.
yeah.
And
Oh,
let
yeah.
them
That,
come with him. That's
Sure.
money. He
Yeah.
got a truck.
yeah. And all they do is buy a little trailer.
Yeah.
And
Look it out now.
and then you work at your own
Face.
thing.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, you know how to make money stretch out, make it go forward, you know?
And of course, I know some folks that I can refer to him, if he decides to go that route,
Yeah.
So let's go ahead to the agenda, we have asked Dr. Blessings already upon, what we're going through. Okay, so, the progress on the new charter, we're expecting to hear that from Sister Gail. So what I'm going to do is just say contact Sister Gail. And so as I was sharing with him, if she's not able to do it, or he's not, he's still delaying, if you're doing something for nothing, sometimes you ask people to do things for you,
Yeah.
and then take their own,
Yeah.
that's why I really would prefer we just go ahead, but we'll see where it is, and we'll get back to that and then share with you what's going on with that. Okay, the amendment, I'll be sending that to you as well,
Okay.
along with the other info about what it means to be a trustee,
Okay.
the duties and responsibilities of a trustee.
Okay.
I'm gonna send that along too, okay?
Okay.
And then you can look at that, any suggestions you have, because it may not, she would have contacted me and said, Pastor, it's done,
Yeah.
So I'm assuming it's not done.
Yeah.
So if you read it, and based on what you heard here, and you have any thoughts, and rather say, okay, we might want to put this in there, we might want to say this way, or whatever, then make a note of that, and then we can include that in, okay? Sanctuary progress, we made a report on that, and yeah, we had a point where now Word Ministries, they have volunteered to go ahead and bless the church by paying for putting the top on the roof. The church paid for all the other stuff, the new roof and all of that. And so they have said that. So we're at the place where they could move on that. I informed them last week. And so I'm just waiting for them to that's Pastor Jonas Austin. I'm going to get his name to you so that you know. Let me see, where is that? Let me see. Okay, yeah, okay. We got, right there you can put Pastor Jonas
By sanctuary?
by Progress on Sanctuary Project
Okay.
at the end of that.
What's his name?
Jonas Austin, A-U-S-T-I-N.
Jonas?
Right, J-O-N-A-S. All right, then moving on. All right. Madison, Transportation, okay. And those are the group that have been renting from us for about 3 years or more. And we just wanted to update the church about where they are. Of course, they're no longer renting from us. They're in the process of, just like he's liquidating all his equipment, because of big insurance costs you heard about with the buses, school buses, yeah. Well, they couldn't afford it. They had the contracts, but they couldn't afford the insurance. The insurance was $65 a year. You know, you'd be conducting a business and barely being able to pay for the gas, you know, and with zero profit. You know, you just working yourself to death, you know, with no benefit for it, you know. And they invested a whole lot of blood, sweat, and tears into that business. I really feel, you know, our heart. So we're keeping them in prayer. You can write that in. It's Jonas, right under Madison Transportation. Write Tracy and Abdul. Abdul. That's the husband and wife. And we just want to remember them in prayer. The Lord is keeping them afloat. They're, you know, they're in a different place. They moved to another church, and they're still working in the ministry. So, you know, God, you know, one door closes, God opens, huh? Yes, He does. Okay. So, did you have any questions or concerns? Okay. So, upon reflection and thinking about what you heard today, if you do, go ahead and write that for our next meeting. Okay? All right. Trustees, president vacancy. All right. A few words on that. Sister Gail has said that she wants to give up the president's office. Okay? She's been serving that role for since you come back from Katrina, you know, 7-8 years, you know.
Giving it up?
Yeah, you know, it's time. You know, with the changes, the physical changes in her life, you know, and the various other things that have happened recently in her life, you know, she's in a, you know, in a season of transition and change, and so I'm sure she's reevaluating every aspect of her life, you know. We just want to continue just to keep her in prayer. Yeah. And so, but as it relates to the trustee board, what I've decided to do as the overseer over the trustee board is to put the president's role on hold for 6 months to a year. And so, since we got new members, we got our brother here, myself, and we expect to bring on other members. And during that time, that will give time for us to gain experience in terms of meeting, so that at some point in time, as the Spirit leads, we're going to vote on making a new president. And then the president will serve part of the time. Okay. So, all right. So I'm going to just put on there 6 month to a year hold. HOL. All right. Okay. And word change in ministry. Now they have made just like they came in here and made a report, proposal. Well, the church that's worshiping here, they would like to. Renovate the education building. Okay, that's what we have in mind. Now, we've already had people come through here and it's been evaluated. And what we're looking at over there is about another $1 million project. Okay, to revitalize. We do want to, once we have the engineer's report and say, okay, this building is worth investing in. The structure's good, the walls are good, all we have to do is the roof and all the intercross. And they say, well, it's a viable project, good. If not, then we have to begin to think about what else, tear down part of it and revitalize, all of that moving forward. That's part of what the trustee board is going to be deciding over the next few years, what to do with that property. Okay, so they've made a proposal, all right? I'm still waiting for them to send it back to me so I can present it to the trustee board and we can begin to discuss it and see what we encourage them to do is make what they call a memorandum of agreement. That's the same thing that they're gonna do, okay? And so that says what Hope will be responsible for doing and what they will be responsible for doing. The timelines, how long, and this, that, and the other, the insurance, all of those issues that concern that will be in that agreement. And so, right now, we're still waiting to receive. I'm gonna, once we deal with this room, I'm gonna talk to them, ask them where they are, and ask them to send that forward, if they're still interested in doing that. If not, that's fine too. That's a pretty big project, really. And they're very small kind, but smaller don't mean, no. All it takes is, we've had 2 or 3 millionaires to knock on these doors, They just didn't follow through. For whatever reason, God only knows. We're not concerned about that, God knows, okay. But they have been faithfully keeping up with what we're charging them to utilize for their worship service, and the relationship is moving along well. They're doing some growing, we thank God for that they are growing, and we just want to continue to keep them in prayer, they're keeping us in prayer as we continue to follow the leading of the Lord. Okay. All right. And so now the schedule for next monthly meeting. Now, I didn't put monthly on there, but that's what I want to include there. You can put monthly meeting over month. I'm gonna put over the top of the meeting monthly. Okay. And so I think the first Saturday, we're just gonna use the first Saturday to start with as a monthly meeting. How does 10:30 work for you?
Fine.
Okay. Brother Baldwin and Sister, that time, when we were meeting before, that time worked for them as well, and Brother Aaron. So we're going to use that as a working time. Now that can change, but and we want to be flexible. Now we will have emergency meetings.
Yes.
But what we want to do with emergency meetings, because people have things to do, there's always things going on in life, you got to address. So we can do those kinds of things. If something comes up that we need to be informed about, make a decision about, we can do that, a conference call, emails, so on, without having to physically meet. Okay, so those would be the only other meetings that we would have. Okay, if you don't have any further questions or any comments you'd like to make at this time, you can do so. Amen. Praise the Lord. Amen. I like that. So far. Amen. Hallelujah. The future belongs to God. Amen. And my brother used to say, Minister Hall, his name was, and he said, yeah, my brother, we can do, he's talking about that. We can do that even from the country. We can do that, my brother. God willing. Amen. Hallelujah. And everybody brings something very unique to fellowship, and it blesses the body. Yeah, because sometimes we get to talk and we're going to do this and so. Well, wait a minute. First of all, we talk to God. And second of all, what did he say? Hallelujah. So we better preface everything and say, God will. And we move forward with that. And so that's how, in many ways, we are a blessing to one another by what God's Spirit put in us and leads us to express in a ritual way. All right. Oh, okay. This is daughter. And that's Lauren Catan And DK, she got a motorcycle too.
Yeah.
Yeah. But she come up with you know, demolition man, you know, yeah. He brought her up, you know, she used to work with him and all that, yeah. I like it, she's a very nice girl.
Yeah, she very smart too.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah,
You
yeah,
can
yeah.
tell.
Yeah.
They
It's-
all their business.
Yeah. And, yeah, I mean, we've had this relationship for another good 8, 9, 10 years now. You know, it's been a blessing. It's been a blessing.
I ain't gonna forget my roast.
Oh, yeah, now, see,
I'm
yeah,
gonna
yeah.
take another juice.
Oh, okay, help yourself.
Yeah.
Help yourself.
Go down here and finish
Okay. Yeah, does James like any sweet stuff?
Yeah.
Well, take a few things from him as well. Yeah, let me go in there and get that, those ropes. Hey, get it back.
Yeah, I'll bring that one.
Okay,
He go back in November for his cancer, they're gonna see if he's gone.
oh, praise
I'm
the Lord.
trying to-
Yes. We'll
But
continue
he's
to.
been like, a headache. You know, like he get mean after he had the treatment.
Well, you know, drugs, different kind of
I
drugs
know,
can
it
have
do.
different kind of effects
It do,
on you.
yeah.
Yeah.
So I understand, you know.
Yeah, well, thank
I
God,
just
you know,
ignore
yeah.
him. I went to my doctor and said, I'm fine with everything, my sugar done went down,